Hello there and welcome to another kit analysis featuring Katan. This release comes at a critical time in the game for the newly minted Mandalorians, with the faction being in dire need of some real leadership, as well as a way to tie the faction's fragmented and incohesive kits into a more established identity. Because of this, I think it's important that we start off with her leadership, and unfortunately I don't think Bo-Katan hits the mark. Immediately we can see that she provides no initial extra speed or turn meter gains to her faction, which puts them in a very difficult spot in the meta. Things are very fast right now, and if you aren't putting in a bid to try to outspeed enemy teams immediately, you really need solid defensive mechanics just to be able to survive, let alone to fight back. Bo-Katan lead provides no real defensive mechanics either. Ancestral armor presents itself as a really interesting option for a team to have in theory, but due to the faction's current shortcomings, it's hard to feel good about it. Without any team-wide counterattack source in the faction, and the fact that her lead only procs on basic usage during their turn, there's no real synergy between the leadership and the lead's ability, outside of using the lead ability on a character wearing level 3 Beskar. It also presents itself as problematic to the team's viability on defense, as the AI tends to love spamming leadership abilities. Testing has already confirmed that Armorer will now use the lead ability on her second turn, pushing back her giving someone Beskar armor to turn 3. Not that I expected this team to have any defensive viability at all, but this is just another nail in the coffin. As a package, this leadership unfortunately just reads as a stronger Carth lead, a team that has no place in the meta for very similar reasons. Her lead screams wanting to brawl and dish out damage over time, but this team both lacks offensive and defensive mechanics to earn that power fantasy. A team like Padme or Darth Revan have mechanics that prevent them from being punished too hard for going second, while teams like Carth or Kira don't. Finishing off the Carth metaphor, we have the fact that the best usage of her leadership is going to be Canderous Ordo. The stacking crit damage on him will be incredibly nice, but this only activates on basic usage during your turn, and the faction has a lot of special abilities that you want to be using, so the frequency of activating this will be a lot less than in Carth lead. Moving on to looking at Bo-Katan herself, her stat line reads as mostly average. With her leadership and faction mechanics not offering any extra speed or turn meter, you'd like to see a high base, but 152 clocks as pretty middling for where the meta is at these days. She's definitely not going first, second, or third in most fights, even with a dedicated speed build. She's an agility attacker, which provides pretty nice mastery for a damage dealer, including a solid 80% crit chance at Relic 7 as a physical damage dealer, some extra crit damage, and 6700 offense at Relic 7. This is a slightly above average stat, but not really noteworthy, especially for an attacker. She does need to make use of her potency, and luckily for her, she clocks in at the 10th highest in the game at 68% base. Definitely some welcome news, and her tenacity also ranks 8th highest at 77%. I'm not necessarily expecting her to need to build for tenacity, but for 3 sets in a primary, this already gives her a baseline cap of a solid 172%. The other noteworthy stat that stands out to me is her health steal, which is 6th highest in the game at 40%. This definitely gives her some extra staying power if things are getting messy, on top of the other sustain sources in her kit. It's definitely nice to have. Moving on to her basic, we have a pretty simple ability. It does okay damage during her turn when it applies vulnerable, with a slightly low ratio of 177% offense, which increases to 227% when attacking out of turn, at cost of losing the debuff. The vulnerable isn't really necessary for herself with how high her crit chance is. Really, the teammate who's going to be most happy to see this is Canderous Ordo, a character with incredible offense, but only 48% base crit chance at Relic level 7. 227% on assist with the possibility of stacking crit damage means she'll be able to put out some solid damage with a few stacks of crit damage on her, but otherwise this basic is nothing to write home about. Her special stands out as a pretty high impact ability with a few trade-offs. The combination Dispel into Daze is a lot of value packed into one ability, but with any ability that serves as a Dispel, we need to check for the clause that it can't be evaded. Without it, this means that Foresight will prevent it and that it's also subject to 2% evasion RNG. If she were a strength attacker, we'd be able to negate that accuracy with her mastery, but as an agility attacker, we have no such luck. If you use this character, there will be rare occasions where you needed to dispel a taunting tank or get the stealth off of some key character, and she'll just miss instead. It's unfortunate. Still, as long as the ability does what it's supposed to do, it's a very nice utility package, with the slight chance for some frustration every now and then. On average, you can expect that she'll miss days on one person out of 5. The damage clocks in at very low for her at 112% offense ratio, but given the utility of the move, I'd say it's an expected trade-off. Last but not least, we have her unique. This is a small, but incredibly potent sustain package for the Mandalorian faction. A potential 100% extra protection means that this team will be able to bring amazing protection to health ratios, giving incredible durability against percent health damage, and excellent returns on extra modding investment. As the real icing on the cake, a squad-wide 8% health and protection regen per assist is an amazing sustain package, and it's also worth noting that multi-attacking abilities like Canderous activate this as many times as you attack. 24% health and protection for 1 assist is an incredible amount of sustain to receive, although of course it's less consistent to receive if you're running a full Mandalorian squad. All in all, a great effect that I'm grateful exists for the faction on her unique instead of her lead. The faction's only real bid to contest the meta is Armorer's base speed, which clocks in at a respectable 187, but isn't quite fast enough to have a chance at contesting other factions with speed leads. Her speed also isn't able to translate to the rest of the team, only to Canderous, who can gain Terminator off of damage dealt, and can inflict offense down to buy his team some breathing room, but doesn't fully solve their problems. Another big consideration is Beskar Mando, and whether this team warrants pulling him away from his existing usage. While there is some nice synergy to like here, with his protection equalized benefiting from Bo's unique, and a decent source of Whistling Bird generation, it feels like you're trading out an existing meta team just to make a worse team playable. To me, this faction's only real hope is by drafting Gideon, whose incredible base speed and team-wide turn meter gain can try to make up for the leadership they don't have. His turn meter reset offers the team some much-needed breathing room and opens up the possibility to enable using Sabine's AoE stagger setup before the enemy team goes. His Demoralize also provides solid synergy with Armor and Bo-Katan's uniques, leading them to have a significant amount of relevant bulk. The team's abilities to juggle taunts also potentially creates an opportunity to protect Gideon pretty successfully. Unfortunately, we're still forced to beg the same question as before: is the end result really worth the cost of Gideon? He acts as a potential counter to 2 Galactic Legends or more. He's an incredible mix-up that you can fit into a lot of teams on defense, and he's an excellent tool to neutralize tricky teams during your offense. While I think it sounds like a good amount of fun to run him in Mandalorians, it feels a bit tragic to use him to barely drag a team across the viable line, instead of using him to his full potential. The last honorable mention is that you could try to use her in Beskar Mando lead, but the lack of a Scoundrel tag means that she won't chain off of Queel's turn meter. And Beskar Mando didn't have his lead updated to work with Scoundrels, so I don't think I see it mattering. All in all, the Mandalorians are still left feeling like a faction without a lot of tools that teams need to matter in the current meta. I bet this team would be a lot of fun to play in something like Galactic Challenges or Conquest, and there are some tools to like across the faction. But as of right now, their best shot at impacting the meta will be as some niche counter to a low B team or some C teams. It's only a matter of time until Canderous gets a team that allows his insane potential to shine, but for now, the hunt continues. Thanks for watching.